So our next presenter is Marcin Pieprzowski, a software test project manager with more than 9 years of experience in the QA. He worked in such studios as Rovio games, CD Projekt Red, and Ubisoft, and now he will share with us his experience. Giving you the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much. So hello, everybody. I'm Marcin, and this is my QA Sapper guide to stable releases and control explosions. As my wonderful moderated merchant, I have experience in the game industry for 9 years now. I started at Testronic, then moved to CD Projekt and work on Witcher titles and its expansions, then Gwent and Thronebreaker, and then after 5 years, I moved to Ubisoft and started working as a software test project manager at Ubisoft Connect for the past 2 years. So first things first, I'm going to set you the scene. Imagine that you're a sapper called into a bomb situation. There's, police tape, a huge package that nobody knows what it is, but everybody knows it's dangerous. So you equip the suit, you then approach it. Like in the movies, you together with the team in the control room, you try to analyze the bomb, look into it, and then you snip slowly the cables. It's tension. Everybody is holding their breath, but with the last cable is being snipped, everybody explodes with happiness and joy because you've succeeded. And I was that QA sapper called in 2020 for Ubisoft Connect, and this is the story of how I disarmed the bomb. The setup. So when I joined in May in 2020, it was 6 months until release. The project was moving rapidly from alpha to beta to gold. The QA team was insufficiently prepared and understaffed, so the expectation was to have 56 people on the project. Well, we had around 20, so I had to quickly ramp up the team as well. But there was also lack of QA management to focus on quality effort, so everything was a little bit chaotic. The leads on the project didn't know how to properly manage such a big release. And there was clear expectations from both Ubisoft Connect management as well as Ubisoft Ukraine. That option is not a failure, especially when you're dealing with a bomb. Failure is always not an option. So first things first, before we even dare to approach the bomb, we have to equip the suit. I strongly believe that your QA team is your extension, so you cannot do anything without them. So they are your suit, they are your hands. So you have to get to know them as much as possible because they will help you to deliver a successful release. So get to know them as soon as possible, their experience, their capabilities, their strengths and weaknesses. So make sure you know them because you have to be a strong team in order to successfully make a release. And ask anyone that can provide that information. So not only them, but the leads, HR, other devs, other people from the studio, how they see your team, how they work with them so far. Are there any problems? So get as much information as possible from everyone. And when working with the team, the most useful tool for me was conducting one-on-one sessions with them. And this is the agenda, how I did it. So I first introduced myself and then asked about their background, asked about their daily responsibilities, things that currently that at that time made them happy and motivated, what things at that time made them frustrated and make their life harder. Of course, their expectations from me, from them to me as their project manager and their career plans. So I was getting to know where they're coming from, where they are, and when they want to go. And as you noticed, I already started diffusing some bombs inside the team because if somebody has some problems, you have to resolve them as soon as possible. And while you're doing, that's why we are asking what makes them happy and motivated, because if there are things that currently are working for them, you don't want to break that. One other thing you can do to help facilitate a successful release and disarmament of the bomb is to divide team in a structure that works for the team. So in the past, it was for domains concentrated around sites, so Paris team, Massive team, and Montreal team, and also around PC Client. Those domains were taken care of by 14 agile teams, and each tester have been assigned 1 to 2 agile teams to work with them. Currently, how we do it, there are 3 domains: publishing, engagement, and support, and those domains are being taken care of by 22 agile teams, and each tester has around 2 to 3 agile teams assigned to them. And I'm telling you this so that you don't follow blindly any recipe that there is out there on the internet or from experience. Make sure you adjust the team structure and to whom they are assigned, the responsibilities and the scope that fits the release, fits the scope, fits what you're doing on the project. Other thing that is super useful in ensuring that you're going to have a successful release with your team is to build a safe atmosphere to fail. You need to hear ASAP if something is wrong. And it's super crucial because if you don't do that, you basically made yourself a bomb-making machine, meaning that if somebody is scared to tell you that they made a mistake, they send a report that has some issues or problems, or they want to share you some bad news because they are worried that there will be consequences for them. You basically will be not reacting to problems on the project when they appear, and those will just be waiting until the last moment and then explode into your face. And obviously we don't want to do that. And one of the tools that allows you to build a safe atmosphere to fail is a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. He talks about trust, and trust not in the sense of predictability. So if you say something you tell someone to do something, they will do that. It's more about trust, that you can tell anything to anyone. So that trust will be your main tool to build that safe atmosphere to fail. Because if they can trust you, that they can tell you anything that is problematic on the project, you will hear as soon as possible about issues. And if there's trust, there won't be any fear of conflict. You need healthy conflict in able to solve issues or have discussions, not only inside your team, but with other departments. If nobody wants to raise a hand when there's a problem, they won't care if something goes wrong. And you can imagine that if there's no commitment in diffusing a bomb, then definitely that's not a good thing to do and to happen on whenever you're disarming a bomb. And of course, if there's no commitment, nobody will hold anybody accountable. And if nobody holds anybody accountable, then there won't be any results. And we want good results when dealing with a release of a title or a project. The last thing to do with your team is to mentor and coach them. You need to make sure that they have the most knowledge to be able to handle a release, no matter if they're juniors, middle, or seniors, or your leads. So make sure you teach them and share your experience and knowledge. What I did on Connect was teaching them 2 things that were missing for me at that time was exploratory time-based sessions. So taught them how to do those, but also they had a habit of not adjusting the scope of testing to the release. So we had internal release milestones, and they were exercising 300, 600, 900 test cases when in fact they could just do it with 100 or 200. So also taught them how to dynamically adjust their test plans to fit their needs. And if you don't have anybody that can mentor or coach, or you cannot do it yourself, find someone that can do it for you. You will be thanking yourself in the future when you're releasing the game. Once we equip the suit and we have team ready to handle disarming the bomb with you, now it's time to focus about gathering your allies and tools to help you analyze the bomb. So talk to as many people as humanly possible. So not only your testers, not only your leads, not developers, but also tech ops, live ops, community management, customer support, marketing, everybody that can bring you as much information as possible about the product, about what we're going to be releasing, why is the purpose. And the most important question in your arsenal while doing that is why we are doing this the way or not the other, why we want to do this and not that. This will bring you as much information as possible, because if you get an answer that is satisfactory, meaning I know why we are doing this and this is why, good, you find yourself now a good ally that will help you understand and be useful when the release comes. When you get a very dogmatic answer, I don't know why we are doing it, we always did it like that, good, now you'll find yourself a bomb that is ready to be disarmed. So make sure you take that process or whatever the thing is they're doing for the sake of just doing it, and either adjust it or change it or delete it. While you're at it, make friends with other departments. So while you're building, asking those questions and interviewing people, make friends with other departments. So again, tech ops, live ops, community management, marketing, any dev team, make sure you build those connections, those friendships, because they will allow you to build safe environments for controlled explosions. And we're gonna talk in a minute what are controlled explosions, but having those connections and having those friendships will be crucial to have a successful release. Once we have our allies, the other thing we have to focus is tools. You have to get to know as fast as possible what type of source control you're using, what type of test software management you're using. Are there any DevOps? What are the tools that enable testers to test, debug stuff, what developers are using to test. Any tool that is being used to verify quality or help with quality, you should know them. And if those are problematic, you should change them. And if you cannot, you should adapt your strategy accordingly. So you have to know what tools you're dealing with. And the other super valuable tool is automation. Get to know, is there any automation on the project? At what stage the automation kicks in? So is it end-to-end? Is it just unit test? Is it integration test? Is it on the build system? So make sure you get to know if you have one, but also who's responsible. Is it only QA? Is it developers? And who can maintain it? If maintain it, and if not, are there other departments that can help you with that? And don't worry if you don't have automation. This is a super useful tool that can allow you to focus on more meaningful work for manual testers. But if you don't have automation, you can still have a successful release, but you will have to be a little bit creative when doing so. So once we have our suit, our team and allies and tools, now let's go and approach our adversary. So we have to analyze our product, and I think the best tool, and which is the most basic and most useful tool in QA arsenal, is risk assessment. Make sure you list all possible risks for the project, for your team, for the product, and you'll be finished once you have no other topics you can list. So as soon as your mind goes blank, then you're finished. So please list all possible risks that humanly possible can do. And we can go for general risks, so people management risks. Do you think someone will leave the team or the project? From quality perspective, do we have confidence in our work as a team? From process perspective, is it smooth with checks and balances, or there are some rough things that we have to take care of? From pipelines perspective, are they efficient enough for our release? Are there any threats? So are there any problems or issues that might occur during the release that can explode into our face? Or there are any opportunities when doing so? So can we use the situation to our advantage and push for things that otherwise we couldn't push? And with those general risks, we can go more into details. So we can look from the product risks perspective, so backlog, how big it is and how quickly does the team eat through it. Feature list, how many features there are, which are safe and which are risky. From scope perspective, what finished product do we want? Are we prone to scope creep? And from the resources point of view, is the team overburdened and overworked? Do we have team that is happy and motivated and not overworked and on crunch? Time frame, do we have enough buffers to account for any issues or delays? Headcount, do we have enough hands to get the job done? Test cost, how much time does it take to test particular features, so we know that we can do all the tests at any given moment? And analyze, list everything, document everything, and share with the team. And again, list as many as possible, and go through them, share them with all the allies, and make sure you have the list always ready, because then you will be very much prepared for the upcoming release. Once you have all the risks, you can then have 7 responses to deal with those risks. So one, and the easiest one, also the most riskiest one, is just to accept that risk. So we basically say that risk exists, and we decide to not do anything about it. But if the risk has negative consequences, you can transfer it. So you can basically tell other department, let's say in terms of automation, we don't have automation, let's transfer it to another department that does automation, and they can handle the risk of not having any automation. We can mitigate it, so we can also try to lower it as much as possible on our side. So dedicate 1 person or 2 people, or find somebody on the team to do automation, and completely avoid. So try to push as much resources as possible to minimize the risk to 0%. So resolve it completely. And if it's opportunity, so it's something positive, we can share that with other departments. So again, it might not be a problem that we have automation. It might be opportunity to build connection or build relationships with other departments. We can enhance it, so we can even do either create situations or create possibilities for us to put more and more resources into that opportunity to enhance it and make sure we have more and more automation, and then completely exploit it. So increase the chance of this 100% that will reap benefits from automation, and put all our eggs into one basket and have proper automation for release. And no matter what you decide, make sure that those are paid attention to. We had also meetings with stakeholders when we had the list. Everybody was assigned a risk and was reporting on that to make sure that we are following up on them and decide if those risks have been dealt appropriately or there are still some risks to go. And while doing so, also make sure you have a list of what you have currently at your disposal for testing and what you need. No matter if it's from the company's perspective, can we hire third-party testing companies to help us if there are any internal resources that we can use, every tools that we have and all the tools that we need to have. So if we have a wish for having a third party helping us or a tool or buy something new, make that list. Because you would never know. I had many situations where somebody said, hey, you need this, I can easily do it for you. When do you need it? So sky is the limit. Never be afraid of putting a wish list to people, because you would be very surprised how many times you'll have people saying that, is this possible? So aim for the skies and have lists of everything you need and what you have, because then you know everything you need, what you have for the release, but also you can build that healthy backlog of items to deal with either before the release or after release when it's done. Once we analyzed all the possibilities, all the risks, everything that we have, it's time to have an action plan. Let's not go into diffusing a bomb without a plan. So first things first, use visual tools to visualize your planning. Like, I'm a very visual guy. I love visualization, and you will be surprised how many people find it super useful when they can just open any tool and easily see what is coming when and who is responsible for it. I personally are a fan of Gantt charts, but use, again, any tool. I've seen teams using Google Calendar for visualization. Of course, there are also professional tools like Shotgun or any planning tools that can aid you with that. But any tool that will help you visualize who's responsible for what when it happens, how it relates to internal and external milestones, how it looks in time and the workload, and you'll be very grateful for having that visibility, and it will ease communication when describing and contacting other departments when talking about your needs and talking with your team about what has to be done when. Other thing that I really love to do is min-maxing. So I strongly believe that we as QA have to minimize test time and maximize value. So as with the example of our test plans, even though if you have 600 test cases, let's make sure we only exercise those cases that bring us maximum value. There's no point in doing 2 weeks of testing if only half of those tests will bring us value. The other min-max you can do is with your resources, so with your team. Use the fact that your QA is working closely with developers, and if they are not, start doing that. It's super useful, so they can focus on more complicated and more nuanced situation and bugs and tests, so they can quickly go back and forth with developers while using some external resources, no matter if it's external in terms of inside the company or external when using other company. Use those external resources for simpler tasks like following a test plan, following speed runs or smoke tests. So those can be repetitive, those are clean. So then you can combine and make sure that the testers that have maximal experience on the project and have easy access to your developers are working with them, while those that have less experience and less knowledge about your product are working with much simpler tasks. And this way you can min-max. Of course, if you don't have enough resources to do both, you have to be a little bit more creative. One of the things that we did on the project is to rotate people on those mundane, simple tasks. So we had a list of testers that are doing either exploratory testing or smoke testing or regression or bug verification. So we were tracking and rotating them, and that has two benefits. One, you will have very crazy and unhappy testers if they're just on the same platform doing the same thing all over again. You don't want crazy testers when disarming a bomb. But also the second thing is, aside from their mental health, is also making sure you fight against that bias that naturally occurs. If the person is constantly doing the same thing, they will stop saying things. So giving them fresh tasks, so switching alternating platforms, alternating tasks, even though if they are simple, will allow them to see more clearly and spot those issues that otherwise they will be blind to. Once we have visualization of the plan that we want to do, let's work on the communication with other dev departments. So one of the things is doing triages with the dev teams. And it's good to have 3 disciplines in the room, so QA, other relevant developer, and then producer or product owner. Especially before release, you definitely will have, if not dozens, then hundreds or even thousands of bugs to chew through. So you have to have those 3 disciplines inside the room and go quickly through lots of bugs. And you need that context from either quality perspective or any other developer perspective or production to make sure that you can quickly adjust the priority of the bugs or tasks. But then it doesn't solve the issue that usually occurs, and a lot of people will share that problem, that usually what happens, we go into a binary system that either everything becomes a P0 that has to be fixed or done, and then everything else is either P1 or P2. So basically, it's either we do it now or we don't do it at all, which of course doesn't help with having the visibility on the project and what needs to be done and when. So what we introduced on the project is a Moscow pattern, so must, should, could, and want, and it's a great pattern to exercise communication and shift the perspective. And for every tester that was triggered that it's the only slide that has colors, it's for a reason for us to easily follow the concept. So it shifts perspective from fighting between departments, what is the most important feature right now, because every department will think their features are the most important, especially music and VFX that are at the end of the chain. So they will usually scream about how they are being not prioritized appropriately. So it shifts from the focus of my department is more important to what feature is most important for a release. So the questions that we would ask is, can we release without this task or without this feature or without this bug? If the answer is no, if we literally cannot release because it's either a compliance issue or it's going to explode and block test players from playing the game, or any other serious issues that will basically make the release a failure, then it's a must. We have to do it no matter what. Then if we can release without it, then we ask, is it painful to release without it? So there will be issues that are blockers but have workarounds. So there will be, or maybe the issues or features that are less used by the players or not super crucial for the release, they can wait a little bit. We would rather have them still be there, but if we are choose a binary decision, we have to cut something, then we can cut those. Then if the answer is yes, it's a should, then the obvious answer is the obvious question to ask: do we really need it? If it's not a must or it's a should. So if we still want it, we can put it as a could, so we can wait for a better time. If it's a no, then we put it as a want, and it will wait for a better day in our release cycle. So again, this Moscow plan is very great to shifting that perspective from what is important for my department to what is important for a success for the team. And also, because sorry, I just reminded myself, it's also super useful to have it, to have that discussion that is understandable by everyone. So you'll have different priority schemes, P1s, P5s, P10s, or whatever. Like, this is very unintuitive. So having human readable questions that can be understandable by anyone. So can we release it without it? Is it painful to release with it or without it? Do we still want it? Those are questions that can anyone ask. So this is also why it's super useful, because no matter if you're dealing with a team that knows your priority scheme, priority severity, or whatever, it can be used with any department. The other thing that is super useful, because one thing is to have communication with developers in meetings, but sometimes you want to relay information much faster to much bigger audience, then reports come into play. So ensure your reports will be read and not being put into a spam folder. You will be very surprised how many emails are just, probably you're not surprised, you do it yourself, where you just don't read some emails because they basically either provide too much information or the information is not catered to you. So the thing that we did on Ubisoft Connect to make sure that people are reading our reports is to have 2 versions. One is a daily report that was only crucial information, so only must and should issues or features that have to be done on the project at any given moment, with some general idea of where we are at the project. So only minimal and most important information that can be read every morning to your morning coffee. And then validation reports with much more details that were done on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, where there were a lot of more information about the status of the project with everything. So also coulds, any delays, any more information, any more KPIs. So for you, good practices for reports is to start narrow with the most crucial information for stakeholders, and then widen the knowledge as you go. So again, when people open the email, you'll see the harshest dropout. So many people, once they open an email and read the first 2 sentences, then they will instantly drop out. So you want to make sure that the first information they read is the most crucial, and then you can expand the details as they go, because if somebody is interested in the report, they will start scrolling. Other thing that is super useful is to have meaningful KPIs. I know that it's a temptation to put as much data as possible because it looks good on paper, but if you spam people with data, they will stop caring for your reports. And again, this is a bomb that you don't want to have, which people not reading your report emails about the status of the project. And again, go wider with content if needed. So either add more information so they can scroll, or use external tools to provide in-depth details. So we were using either Jira filters or links to Confluence when we got presented in the email, just snippets of the details about the report, and then the nitty-gritty details of every test case was done in Confluence. So then if somebody is interested, they can click in the email, you just scroll 2 times and you have everything. So remember to min-max, again, make sure that your emails are as small as possible with much content and as much value as possible. Once after we've done all that work, now it's time to start disarming the bomb. If you know the game, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, this nicely explains what is the most important thing, which is communication. You have to talk with all the departments about the status of the project, about the issues that are coming, all the risks, anything that you see that is coming the way of the release. So no matter what is the department, no matter what is the information, share them as much as possible. Usually what happens during the release is that everybody is so caught up in their work, they stop caring what happens in other departments. So it's crucial for you to keep that communication flowing and talking about what needs to be done right now and what's the most important thing. And make sure that you adjust your communication to the audience. So there's going to be a difference when you're talking to a high stakeholder. So let's say at a production director or a leader, director of the board or somebody that's super high. You don't want to present all the details because they won't know the context. So it's going to be very hard for them to know what you're talking about because they are not into developer, and it can even get worse. Like they will hear something that is super detailed and not understand anything that's bad. So they start acting, and you don't want a stakeholder to act blindly on the project. So make sure stakeholders that are high get valuable but minimal information that interests them. So is the project going according to plan? All those things. While developers are the opposite, right? Like they are on the front line. They are dealing with the issues firsthand. So they need more details. So probably either triage meetings or more details about the issues and what is happening. So make sure again you're adjusting your communication to your audience, because the worst thing you want is people stop listening to you. One of the things that we had to do, which I mentioned at the beginning that we didn't have enough QA, is to assemble a team to defuse a bomb when we didn't have the proper headcount to do so. So we try to hunt for intermediates and seniors, but with 6 months, it's very hard to fetch middle and seniors. So we had to focus on hiring juniors. So we adapted our hiring process only for juniors. So switching from tests that focus on the knowledge and focus on more about if they have the proper mindset, if they have analytical skills, if they can be independent and autonomous on the project. So because when I mean hiring juniors, I mean people without any experience, either in industry or in testing. And of course, we had to adapt our onboarding. So we had to make sure that they're getting a mentor and a colleague that can help them get integrated on the project. And also we created a nice strategy of having them go around agile teams and getting the knowledge from all the teams to make sure they're ready to take any task, and then adapting our testing strategy. So shifting from creating and designing test cases, because if you have so many juniors, they don't know how to design test cases. So instead we focus on exploratory time-based sessions. So using their analytical skills, their intuition, their mindset of a player to verify and search for the bugs. You can min-max again, so you can use external Q, and we use that on the project, and we had one wonderful help from other departments that were also QA that helped us testing the project. And we also utilize daily meetings for hot periods. So again, we have those juniors, so we have to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So whenever there was validation, we had daily meetings to make sure that everybody is focused on what is needed. And then when the hot period ended and we had more chill, we could have weekly follow-ups just to make sure that everybody is focused, but we don't have to waste their time on daily meetings. So we can easily disperse tasks that way. The things that you have to do during the disarming the bomb is to having an overview on everything that is happening. And one of the things is making sure that the environment is safe. Like that's why they do the police tape around to make sure that nobody runs accidentally on a bomb site or anything unexpected doesn't happen. One of the things to do is do a content lock and code freeze. Those, are, of course, are controversial because especially production doesn't like them because it slows work. But in this case, we would rather have smooth than fast, because it's better to test something and wait for something to be done for 3 days and have proper testing to give you information about the status of the project, then spend those 3 days frantically checking why something broke unexpectedly because the code base wasn't secured. So somebody did a change and we don't know when he did, where he did, and now we have to find the culprit, and it happened too many times. So make sure you do content lock and confreeze and you have the necessary tool to do so. While you're at it, you will see things that can and will explode. You cannot fix everything. So make sure you use those friendships that you build. So with community marketing, customer support, you inform them about those explosions that will inevitably will happen no matter what. So then you can create a proper communications or contingency plan, and those are the control explosions I was talking about. So once you have communication, once you have workarounds, when you have prepared plans how to fix that, you will have a better and happier time when releasing. And then what I really love to do is justify risks and frequently follow up on them. So having those meetings with stakeholders or people that are responsible for handling those risks and making sure that all the risks are visible, are communicated, and are being handled or being decided that they are done. So then we have full visibility on what's coming for the release. And the last thing that needs to be done is, make sure that we ensure that there is smooth processes going on. Your team can do whatever they need to do, and be on the lookout for any problems and risks. So evolve, adapt, overcome, just pay attention to everything. And now your role after all that work is to just make sure that everything goes smooth according to plan. And if not, appropriate people are informed and can act on the information you're given. So hopefully, once we disarm the bomb and we have the release, everything went well. There wasn't any explosions, and it's a successful release. One of the things that are super useful when doing a release is creating war rooms. They are super fun. You basically gather people that can either quickly fix something or can quickly coordinate people to fix or do something. So you gather them. It's a magical time when nobody is wasting words. It's completely silent and only chats are being done when something is needed. And it's so powerful that I had situations in my career when a high director or a very high stakeholder would want to share and help us. So he was asking around if somebody needs coffee or tea or some snacks. So it was so magical, and that everybody wanted to chime in and help us. And during those war rooms or during the release, look out for both expected and unexpected. You made the list of all the risks and bombs, but still we cannot plan for everything. So make sure you're for the lookout. Hopefully when you make all those friendships, you have now the means to do so. And one of the things that I think it's super important, that high fives are mandatory. Celebrate your success. There's a lot of games or products that either don't make it to the release or the release are not super successful. So make sure it counts when in the moment, celebrate it, cherish the moment, because it's one in a lifetime when your product gets released. So make sure you always celebrate with high fives, with together, either with champagne or cake or whatever, just to make sure that it's a teamwork. We've done so much till this release, so let's pat ourselves on the, no matter if it's successful or it will become unsuccessful, we still did a lot of great work together. So make sure we celebrate it together, because we're humans and we are a team. And how did it look for Ubisoft Connect? So we did a release on October 26th. We're together with Watch Dogs Legion and then with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There were, of course, explosions. We had poor performance on PS4, and then there were some services issues with rewards and challenges, but everybody was informed. Everybody knew what's going to happen, so they can either create communications or contingency plans, and we could roll out hot fixes in a steady and a calm manner. And I think that's what brings the nail to hammer the point, is that one of the site managers said that he remembers releases when we had to crunch and be worried for a week, and now basically we do our release and it's done and we don't have to worry. So doing all those preparations will help you have a happy release. And I think as a QA, It's our job to make sure that developers are happy and confident in the releases, and I think it's super wonderful. And this was my recipe. This is how I do things. But again, with any recipe, make sure to adjust it to your project. Don't just copy everything blindly. Make sure that if something fits, use it. If it doesn't, just remove it. Adjust it to taste. Like with any recipe, you know what ingredients you have to work with and what your team capabilities. So please adjust. And sorry for the bug. Of course, at the last end, I had to have a bug on my presentation. But this is how I do things. And hopefully now you know how to help yourself in having a successful releases. And before I end, I want to put another scene in your head. Imagine that there's a release date. The team bought a cake and champagne. It's 12. The release is rolling out. People eat cake, laugh, and drink champagne, and then at 4 p.m. they just leave the office without any worry. And I wish you all having such calm and happy releases. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcin, a lot. It was a really fascinating presentation, and I have a question for you. As you have admitted, you had some explosions in your career.
Yeah.
So what were the issues there, and what have you learned, and how you have improved the processes or something like that?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So most of the cases were when it's most complicated. So when 2 or 3 systems meet. In my case, it's most popular were on the service sides when some services are either overwhelmed by the amount of users, and usually everybody that plays games on releases, they know that sometimes services are basically DDoS by the players, so a lot of things will break down. And again, as in the presentation, the only thing you can do is prepare contingency plans. So figure out what can you do when such things explode and be problematic. Find other solutions with the marketing and community team to either share appropriate information to the players or workarounds so they can deal with that. And this should buy you time and buffer so then the team can prepare fixes or basically wait out until the problems disappear. And sometimes it's just the worst case scenario. You just find a cover, close your ears and hope for the best. And if you did everything right, then hopefully you survive to tell another tale.
Okay, thanks a lot. And another question. So you work with a great team of QAs, probably even with like third-party QAs, because you need a lot of resources. So how to handle such amount of people? And speaking about the bugs themselves, usually they can be duplicated and so on, but other people just don't know that they already exist.
Yeah, so when dealing with a lot of big testing teams, it's good to build a proper structure. So if you can and you have the time, either have leads being appointed or even find what I call unofficial official leads, so people that can fill that role for the time being. If it's a special occasion that we have little time and we have to act, let's appoint people that can help with coordinating tasks or testers. So it's really impossible to alone coordinate 56, 100, 200 people, right? The same goes for external QA. So they usually have project managers or leads on the project. So make sure you build those relationships currently, have those expectations, and again, use that min-maxing that I proposed, which is those testers that are ready and can handle, especially on your side, working with developers, not make them do test suites and test cases. Exercise them. Make them focus more on supporting developers and working inside the teams together, like embedded QA, so they can support developers. And then those testers that are not experienced enough or cannot be autonomous, especially when it's third parties, because they don't know your product. Like they basically, usually when you work with third party teams, like Testronic or Kulok or any other company, they don't know your product. Like basically you hire them for 3 weeks, right? So they have to very quickly adjust to the product, and then after 3 weeks they're done. So that's why I suggested focusing on them handling those test cases and test plans, because they are written in a way, if they're done correctly, that anybody can do them, right? Make them do speed runs, make them do smoke tests, those tests that are still needed to be done and in a lot of quantities, but can be done by anyone. So then you're min-maxing and making sure that right people are doing the right things.
Thanks a lot.